The name's Hog.
Nidio
Hog.
Nidio. What? Nidio
Nidio Hog. Nideo Hog.
Nidio.
Nidio game.
This is the Idle Thumbs Conf Grenade for GDC 2011, 25th Anniversary Edition, 2, the final chapter, probably.
Oh, I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
I'm Sean Vanaman.
And I am James Spafford.
And we are joined
By
jumping
Nick
the line.
Brecken.
We're joined by Nick Brecken, who is
Nid Brecken.
Nid Hog Brecken.
Brecken.
Yeah.
Hi guys.
So,
Hey, Spaff.
yes, this is actually Spaff, who 3 of you may have heard on the Idle Thumbs UK podcast back in 2008.
Ouch.
Hey Merrick.
But yeah, like 3/4 of the people who show up on this show who you don't recognize, Spaff was one of the guys who started Idle Thumbs back in 2004, and now he's here.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I heard video games.
Yes.
How was your GDC?
It was pretty good. It was tiring as hell though. I
Yeah.
wanted to sleep.
Did you do any of the
Throughout.
sleeping?
Did he go to the sleeping panel?
That was
That's
in,
I saw
Generally,
some
the
panels.
sleeping panel is generally one where you must wear a headset and have Japanese turned into broken English
Yeah.
at 9:30 in the morning. That's generally like
Did they carry
Yeah,
on
it
the
was the
tradition this
Pac-Man
year
thing.
sleeping.
of one of the translators being
Oh.
fantastic and one of them being completely questionable? That's a
And one
GDC
being
tradition.
like-
There's no questions.
The
There's not
sleeping
questionable.
panel was definitely
She's
the
really cool.
experimental gameplay session when
Yeah,
we were
that-
both
yes.
going to die.
That was sad because that's usually one of the highlights of my GDC.
yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
And this year, it started off really awesome with the recursive 3D world where you can place a key into
Yeah,
the
it was
model
amazing.
city of the level that you're in, and then a giant key falls from space, and you use it as a bridge.
Yeah.
Like you can keep going into smaller versions of the level you're already in, and things you do in any of the levels affect all the other like recursively different sized
Yeah,
ones.
there
It's
was
really
that,
awesome.
and then what was Jason Rohrer?
Jason Rohrer
Beneath
showed
the-
his new game. What is it? Inside of Starfield Sky,
Yeah.
which is it's actually already available from, and you can pay whatever you want on his website. But that's also recursive. So it's a, sort of top-down shooter in the style of Bullet Hells, but not actually like that, where you go inside enemies and power-ups.
Yeah, like
And-
every enemy is a level, so if you go
Yeah.
inside of an enemy, you can fuck up their inner workings and then
I
beat
didn't
it and
get
pop
how
back
you
out.
went inside an enemy because I got that like when you die you go in
Inside
like you
yourself.
zoom inside
Yeah, it
yourself
was
and then come
weird.
out, but I didn't work out how you could go inside the
But-
power ups. I think I was nodding off it.
Both of those
already.
spatially recursive games were really cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other stuff was either confusing or poorly mic'd or was buffered
A lot
by
of the stuff
a lot
looked
of
really
introductions.
cool.
Yeah, it was hard to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
So people who are listening to this will have no idea what we're talking about, other than Spaff, you fell asleep during part of it.
Well, I was tired, but then there was that one game about meditation in which a spiral of doom was just spinning around the screen, and you had to control another bar within the spiral without it hitting the spiral, whilst chanting a mantra.
you went
at
into-
that point. I was just
you went into a meditative state during the meditation simulator and fell asleep.
Well, because I don't know, some people were poorly mic'd, so that guy was kind of just mumbling some
Yeah.
stuff, and then he would just start chanting a mantra.
Yeah, he actually
Live, like in time. Whatever. And then I was just like, oh my god, I need coffee so bad.
I successfully snuck off for coffee.
Yeah, and I was like,
Much to your chagrin.
Chris, I want a coffee.
I didn't get you one. You bitch.
Oh, fuck you. There was that one game about a brain that made no sense
Yeah.
at all.
We can probably leave that one at that. There was a game about a brain that none of us understood
Yeah.
because we don't have brains.
They were just sleepy.
I'm trying to think of what else we saw at GDC of note, but it's been a couple days and I've slept.
I went to see the failed game concepts thing.
Did anyone else here see that?
Oh,
I didn't see that one.
I didn't see it, but Keenan went from Telltale, the programmer, and he said it was good.
Cool.
It was interesting. It was a mix, like some of them, because it was meant to be like concepts of games that were like dumped, but some of them were like, oh, it's a game we made badly and actually released, which is kind of
Oh, wow.
defeating the point.
So there's a released failure as well.
What were some of the release failures that they called
What
out?
was it? What was that one? Glenn will know. He's over there.
It's the guy from Stardock, was it?
Brad Wardell.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, were they
Yeah.
talking about Elemental?
Perhaps. That was that was the worst presentation of all things. He
But
failed from classic
this is
sci-fi.
a great recounting of a failed.
However, the good ones.
This is the failed presentation on the failed
That
presentation.
it was similar to the experiment of the game PlayStation where it started really good and then just went.
Yeah, it failed.
It was like a long.
This is
fart.
the meta-ist thing ever. Every level of this is it's about failed.
So what was
things
some
and it
good stuff
failed,
from
and
that?
You are failing right now, my friend.
Well, the 2D Boy guys were there and they showed their next game they were going to make, which involved robots destroying a city, and how they were going to build up from that. And the cool thing about that was their concept was that robots walked along and destroyed cities and shot buildings and trampled people. And the idea was that once you destroyed a city, then the humans would somehow rebuild the city, and the next level would be their rebuilt city. But the first city in the game, you destroyed it by destroying a giant tower filled with milk that drowned the entire Earth in milk. And so the humans came back from that by building a ginormous city-wide barge that floated around the Earth. So you destroy that one, and because it's a boat, and everyone's learned from the Titanic that when boats sink, they go vertical, it kind of half sank and became like a thing sticking out of the Earth. Yeah. And then so the humans built a city on top of that, so it's like a giant T thing sticking out of the milk. And then you destroyed that, and it was like carrying on.
Nothing
insane
about this
things.
sounds like a failure to me.
Oh, but then they also decided that game would be a musical.
This gets better and better. I don't understand.
But so they like talking about how
what didn't
good this
work.
thing was, but then they went back and they were like, actually playing it was really boring. So they like took away all that
That sounds
amazing
impossible.
art and all that amazing cool crap, and then just turned everything into just squares that did stuff and shot things.
just
And
wasn't
basically,
any
it was
fun
a
when
thing
it was
that
that.
played itself, and it was
Yeah.
really boring.
Yeah.
So they were like, fuck this.
It's obviously completely different, but just when you were talking about the city, the rebuilding itself, all that stuff, that reminded me of Will Wright's talk about Red on
I was just
Bungeling
gonna say
Bay.
that, yeah.
Which, like, it was Will Wright's first game, and it was a top-down shooter where you run around and you have to blow up factories and defeat this empire, but.
The Bungling Empire.
The Bungeling Empire, which apparently is a
Robots.
recurring foe in Broderbund game.
The Broderbund universe. Like, was
Yeah.
it
There was
Load
Loadrunner
Roadrunner apparently
and-
exists in the
What's the other-
same
what was the other game?
continuity as fucking
I don't remember the
Raid
other
on
one,
Bungeling
but it was
Bay.
Loadrunner, Raid on Bungling Bay, and another one. All
Thunder Strike or something.
share
something
the
like
same
that.
universe.
Yeah, they all
We're
of
the
them, they
Bungling
all
Empire.
oppose the Bungling Empire. Well,
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Yeah.
the Raid on Bungeling Bay, like in many ways, it's just a very conventional kind of game where you just pilot a helicopter around and bomb stuff on the ground. Except that because
the
Will Wright
enemies
made
are
it,
secretly
like,
running SimCity.
Yeah, I
the
was just gonna
actual-
say, you're playing
all of
against
the factory,
SimCity.
like all of the stuff on the ground is running this elaborate like manufacturing and supply chain where the factories are supplying things and there's like trade routes in the sea.
Yeah, like
and
the
boats
boats,
going
the
out to
boats
get
find
oil
resources
from
in the
rigs.
oceans.
Yeah.
Deliver it to tanks, who deliver it to factories, who then have a build chain for how to
Yeah.
restore their empire if you destroy it.
And I love the idea that even
Yeah.
when Will Wright was making his very first game, it
60K.
was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to build this place you destroy, and if they build the stuff that attacks you, and then they build this carrier that takes a long time, and it goes out to sea, and like there's just this whole crazy procedural thing underlying just the faceless, weird, bungling enemies.
For people's reference, this Will Wright's talk at GDC was a postmortem of Bungeling Bay. Which,
Yeah.
You never really know with that guy. He'll
No.
just say it's going to be.
Well, yeah, he said-
the
Well,
metaphysics.
I mean,
of
only
game
half
design.
of it was actually.
Yeah, only half of it was Raid on Bungling
Yeah,
Bay.
he-
The other half was a extensive history of the Russian cosmonaut.
Which he frequently delves into.
yeah, his talks when he gets to the midpoint just plops into the Soviet Space Minute, which
Yeah,
this year was
Russian
really good.
It's
Space
tough
Minute.
though,
Russian
because
Space
when you're
Minute.
telling somebody who doesn't know who Will Wright really is or doesn't really know what he's about, like they know he makes SimCity, but this sounds like he's just like an old and like your old grandpa who will just talk about anything and be really boring. But,
But he's the most dynamic.
no, he's
interesting
super.
speaker.
Yeah, he's incredibly dynamic.
Yeah,
and
he never.
cogent and
He's not really speaking about what you expect him to be doing.
No.
I'm not really sure how he is used by. You go to talk about Spore or something, and EA using him to sell a game, but it's nothing to do with the game whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, no one else would be able to get away with that.
Yeah.
no, you have to be incredibly smart and Will Wright.
You have to actually have interesting things to say, which a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
I love that the Q&A also just turned into questions about the cosmonaut stuff as well.
Yeah, I know. That was
Yeah.
good.
Wait, can you go back to? So wait a second. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, during the Q&A, someone asked Will Wright to talk about the failure of the rocketry systems that Russia was using to try and get a man to the moon, and then he was like, "Oh well, since you bring that up, 10 minutes of just like what? Why is Will Wright lecturing everyone on the defects of Soviet rocketry?" Good.
And
time.
everyone's just
Also-
lapping it up though.
Yeah.
Also, he represented himself visually in all of his slides as Nicolas
Oh,
Cage.
yes.
Oh, yeah, he said that a fire in 1991
fire,
burned up all of his archives when it took out the hills in Orinda or wherever that was. So he had no pictures of himself as a kid. But even when it got to the modern times in his talk, he
Yeah.
was still Nicolas Cage.
So it was good
Yeah.
how that kind of just, there was 1 or 2, and you're like, Nick Cage, but they just kept going
Yeah.
and going and going.
Yeah.
I love Nick Cage.
Quality guy. I love Will
And Will
Wright.
Wright.
Yeah.
And
The
Will
game,
Wright.
the game was funny because I'd never seen it being played before, and I'd never seen a YouTube clip of it. But like, you don't really expect like an action game from Will Wright, but then
No,
the guy's
yeah.
flying that helicopter around, and it's making classic like pew pew noises and
I
blowing
know.
stuff up. You're like, what?
Well, then there's this whole community of people online who do speed runs for this game, and people who remake it in 3D and with all these different art styles. What? I've never even. I mean, I've certainly heard of the game, but I
actually
never
hadn't.
played it.
Oh, the
Maybe
one
it
thing
is.
out of that talk that is kind of common knowledge at this point, but is super interesting, is that the dynamic enemy system of that game, he built
Oh,
himself
yeah.
a limited graphical editor to build all the scenarios for it, and then after the game shipped, he kept fucking with it and kept fucking with it and kept adding more and more stuff, and then accidentally,
Made some
slowly to deliberately turned the Bungeling Empire into SimCity.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah,
weird
way to go, smart
and,
guy.
and good. Yeah.
Also, there was there was a really interesting undercurrent in the postmortems at GDC, I thought, which was this notion of sort of finding the games that these guys were making. Like the GDC had a series of classic postmortems for games that, except for Bejeweled, were all pretty much 20 years old or even older, as far as I
Yep.
can recall. And there was a really interesting undercurrent of sort of a lot of the people who made these games not entirely knowing what they were even trying
Like,
to
what are
make
some
when
of the
they were
ones that you
starting.
guys saw?
So I saw Will Wright on Bungeling Bay, Eric Chahi on Another World, Peter Molyneux on Populous, and Ron Gilbert on Maniac Mansion, and all
And then
of
you
those.
saw Pac-Man guy.
Speaking about Pac-Man.
Oh yeah, so I didn't see that one, but the ones I saw all had that element to them. Some of them even more than
Pac-Man
others.
guy.
And Populous was by far the most extreme in that direction, where Peter Molyneux was making this game, and it was just this game that really wasn't anything like what Populous became. And,
Oh hey, a return
Oh,
of
hey,
the
Silence is back. Even in a played in
We're
Port
back
City.
at Chris's apartment.
Yeah, we're not, but
False.
we could be. And Will Wright was, Peter Molyneux was very much a novice programmer who didn't know what he was doing, and he didn't know anything about making pathfinding algorithms or anything like that. And so he spent a couple days trying to get the little guy to be smart enough to walk around the world the right way, and he just couldn't do it, and he was really frustrated. So he made a little tweak in the editor so that he could raise and lower the ground,
Right,
so
to
that
build
if the guy
land
started,
bridges.
yeah, so if the guy wasn't going the right way, he could just put walls in front of him or raise the ground in front of him, and the guy would go around it. And then he realized that was actually way more fun than the game he was trying to make. So the game actually became, what eventually was known as a god game, where you terraform this whole landscape and create your army of peasants that eventually rise up into knights and then go kill the other guy. And that all came because he just didn't know what he was doing, and needed to basically bullshit around this programming deficiency he had.
So like all God games or Sim games basically were accidental.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both Populous and
That
SimCity
whole
showed up
genre.
because people were being distracted by some other thing and then accidentally
Yeah.
created.
It's awesome. I think that's really fascinating. Genres were a lot of genres we have now either barely existed then or didn't exist at all, and a lot of them entirely arose out of complete luck, I suppose.
It's not literally entirely related to that, but that is a thing that Ron Gilbert kind of talked about during
Yeah.
Maniac
Yeah,
Mansion as well. Of
definitely.
just we weren't trying to make a scum game. That's just the game that we ended
Or
up
we're trying to
making.
make like a point and click adventure.
Yeah, but I mean, just a game. Yeah,
I
the
mean, no
game.
one knows what you mean when you say scum.
Hey,
Some people
sorry,
do,
they weren't trying to make the point and click adventure game style that everyone, like across the entirety of Europe, has been sort of vamping on for a billion years. They were just making the game that they wanted to make and built the tool to make that, and then that ended up.
yeah, standardizing the adventure game
Yeah.
basically. Yeah, that stuff is really interesting. Even Eric Chahi, I was fascinated by the fact that when he was making Another World, he actually made the game in sequence, in that it was a story based game, but he didn't have the story planned out at all. And so by the time he finished making that really cool, elaborate like hand animated intro sequence, he didn't even know what was going to happen after it. He's like, and then I made the protagonist disappear, and then I had to decide where he was going to disappear to, and it's like, what? Like, none of it. He just was like making the whole thing up as he went along. The fact that the game was about this sort of autonomous sidekick character who hangs around with you, like that wasn't in the spec at all originally. All that stuff just came out of his brain on the fly. Ridiculous.
I also like that he said that he kind of nearly, spoilers, killed Lester Chaikin at the end, because that was basically what he felt like at the end of the project. Just like absolutely dead. There's that scene, where just Lester is crawling along the ground with no energy left at all. And he was, completely beat out.
That's always awesome.
I also like the story about his developer relations, though, where the the port to the SNES and the Mega Drive Genesis versions, they wanted to change the intro music, and he got really angry at them and had an argument which eventually ended in him sending an infinite fax bomb or whatever.
Infinite fax, that's where you tape the paper to itself and just keep it rolling through the fax machine.
And send it at 4 a.m. so that it keeps going until when you come into the
woke
office,
up,
the whole
office
office
full of papers saying, don't change the intro music.
It
Didn't work.
Just bring in the
Although,
like normal. Just
we
noise.
were talking to him, though, the other day, or yesterday, I guess, because that happened weirdly. We ended up talking to Eric Chahi for a day. But he said that at GDC he met the composer from Interplay, who was just like,
Oh, really?
Yeah, who was
Oh,
I guess you didn't like the music and you're still sort of sore about it. Sorry about that. I'm sorry that I changed your music.
Hilarious. God, I totally missed that conversation.
Yeah.
That's the best.
That's kind of
The
hilarious.
game's coming to the iPad?
Yes, and that game is coming to the
We
iPad.
played that.
Neato.
Yeah.
Well, it was
That's
good.
fine. He
Yeah.
showed it at his
It was still
Yeah.
a prototype, but
We got to play it.
It's cool that he was experimenting with. Well, I guess we can announce that, like a touch version. He was trying to play with that.
Announce.
Announced for him. Well, he was playing with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll get it to work, but
Also, speaking of designers still doing cool stuff, Molyneux, who definitely has a very public image as sort of one of those extremely like high-level kind of very director-type figures in the games industry, apparently is hand-coding a 256-player version of Populous that he like busted out during his talk and debugged like in real time when it crashed.
did he actually get it running?
Yeah, he got it running.
He realized later that he had done a compiled version right before the show, so he could run it out of Visual Studio without
Setup.
without recompiling. But that was good. At the Q&A, someone came up right at the beginning and said, hi, from Electronic Arts. I would love to see the multiplayer Populous you're working on. And he said, oh, you want me to load up Populous now? Not now, please. And then
No.
And then he's like, oh, no, but we'll just do that. And then he loaded it up, and it was amusing to see that Molyneux...
Is that something he's actually going to release, or is it just something?
I don't-
Doubt it.
I don't
He doesn't have the
playing
rights
around
to it.
with?
I think that
EA
it's just
owns
he's...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
EA owns Populous.
Oh, because of Bullfrog
Yep.
acquisitions
Yeah.
and
Yep.
oh, EA are in there straight away. They're coming to beat him up.
Yeah. What EA loves is when people who work with their IP announce crazy projects at, I'm sure...
But he's Peter Molyneux. What are they going to do?
I know, but that's like the same thing. It was at a
Join
GDC
the
a
queue.
few years ago when Will Wright gave his talk and was just like, and here's what we're working on. Spore! Dude. I'm sure that there was someone from Electronic Arts in the audience just going, what is happening right now? What is this? Because that game clearly was not ready to be announced at that point and looked nothing like the game that shipped. But
Yeah.
Sadly.
And
Yeah.
the name of his talk was The Future of Content. That's nothing to do with anything.
That's good. It's like the opposite of his normal talks.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Best.
Yep.
Good old Peter. I still wanted to ask him about that thing in the manual, in the Populous manual that I was reading. I randomly found a boxed Populous in my house. Like, whoa, Populous! And then I flipped through the manual, and there's a nice picture of Bullfrog from when there were like 6 guys, and it had a little statement saying that Bullfrog's mission is to make the perfect video game. Populous is not that game, but they will make it. I just wanted to ask him how far he's come along that road. If they've already made that, done.
Sorry, I failed you and I didn't ask that question.
Sadly, I wasn't there.
God, that would have been beautiful. That
Most
is seems like a
obnoxious
question
thing to
you
ask.
want to ask Peter Molyneux too on Twitter. This feels like a question he'd be ripe to answer.
I met a bunch of Lionhead guys during the show who all follow the Peter Molyneux 2 on Twitter.
God.
which I enjoyed.
Peter Molyneux 2. It's sometimes indistinguishable though from the original.
I imagine Peter Molyneux probably follows Peter Molyneux
Yeah.
too.
I
He
bet.
might, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe it is Peter Molyneux.
A game
not
within a
Peter
game.
Oh, that'd be the
within a
best.
game, within a game. Outside of the game.
Did you see when,
So good.
did you see when the real Peter Molyneux on Twitter did a day in the life of himself?
Right at the beginning, right? When
Yeah.
he's like eating a cookie. Like,
It's just horrendous, but then he's like, did it just the worst PR ever, and it must have been shut down at some point. I don't know, but classic him basically. I'm working on this game that we haven't announced. He's cool. He's a nice guy. Also really tall. What?
How tall?
How tall would you say Peter Molyneux is?
8 feet 9. He's pretty gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is big. That's really big.
He and Phil Harrison from Sony could have a tall off.
Will Wright's pretty tall.
Not as tall
Oh, he
as those
looks
guys.
pretty tall. I don't know.
Looks like he's so lanky.
Yeah, he's lanky.
Will Wright's actually 3'6".
Who are other tall game developers? Let's talk about this for a while.
Was it in the...
Sweet Convo Bros.
But was it that had chapters
Reggie
about Will Wright
Fils-Aime's
hacking into hotels and stuff like that? Was that in...
What?
Was it Masters of Doom that had a chapter about Will Wright
I don't
building
remember.
robots for Robot Wars? And or was that just a talk I went to? He was like, I remember Will Wright talking about how he entered Robot Wars once or many times with his son and his wife and stuff, and they made a robot that was entirely composed of magnets and duct tape, so that when it got up to the robots, could just fucking leap onto it. And then inside were like blades that would quickly stab it in quick succession. Apparently, magnets and duct tape are now banned from Robot Wars.
Because of his weird magnetic shank
Will
bot.
Wright. That guy is awesome.
Yeah, he's the best.
I'm pretty sure that was in one of those books that we reviewed on idlethumbs.net.
That was a good website.
I read that once.
Anything else going on at Video Game Developers Conference?
I mean, you guys want to talk about it, and I have a very different opinion about it than you guys, but Button we didn't really get into it last time.
Oh my God.
You didn't enjoy Button?
No, we talked about it.
I saw and experienced Button at the wrong time for me, personally. It was just not, it's like if you have a ham sandwich during a traumatic moment, you don't want a ham sandwich for a long time. It was like that.
What led the... What? Have
It
you
is
had a
fine.
bad time pressing buttons recently? You want to talk about it?
No. I mean, that game looked...
Was your mother a button?
A dead button.
Whoa.
Jesus.
No, she's alive. I'm on.
She is a
And
button.
a button.
And also a button.
Well, she's a B.U.T.T.O.N. if you
That's
understand.
true. So let's not talk about Button then.
No, your mom's gonna listen to this horse bag.
Yeah.
Did anyone play any other indie games? 'Cause I just played.
Oh, I mean,
constantly.
we've talked about it a couple of days ago, but I got around to playing Bastion, and that would echo.
I played that.
I'd echo everything Chris
Cool.
said. Oh man, I
I
really had
didn't
a.
hear what Chris said, but we can. Just
Oh,
go
it's on the
from
internet. If you just download the cast from a couple of days ago.
there. Just play it now.
But yeah, that game. I mean,
Cast
I was so.
Within a
It was
cast.
great. I mean, they had really nice headphones,
Within
which
a
is a
game.
funny thing to say, but like the headphones made my the sound in that game is so good.
Yeah, it's really
And the
nice.
composer is standing right there, and he's a friend of Greg's or a friend of one of the guys. That's great. They're all just friends. Like it's like, oh, I know a guy, and like the guy who does the voice, who does the narrator, it's just like some guy from college.
cool
Yeah,
voice.
yeah, it's wonderful. But I told him, I'm like, I want to buy the soundtrack. God, the soundtrack is so good.
Did they say
It's
how long
really-
the experience of that whole game is?
No, I felt like a jerk asking because it felt like such like a
How many levels are in your game?
exactly.
I know, I
How many
just wondered
upgradable
that.
weapons do you have?
Yeah,
Like that
no,
narration that it
What's
has.
the level
Right.
cap?
That could get really fucking annoying.
it does such a good job in the demo of not being.
Yeah, I agree.
Being
I
a-
thought it was
really
really
just sort
It
of
was great.
of
but
just
then-
accenting your experience and not repeating itself. What was great for me, it was the most subtle thing from a direction standpoint, is the narration's going and telling the story of the game that you're playing, which is really fascinating and not obtrusive. And then you meet a person in the world for the first time after 15 minutes, and it's the guy who's been narrating the game. I mean, you guys played it, but
Yeah,
his
it was
voice has a subtle shift when he goes from "I'm narrating your game" to "Hey guy," and
Yeah.
like
It's exactly
it was so-
like in The
pitch
Big
perfect.
Lebowski.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
it's like
yeah,
the character in the Big Lebowski. Yeah.
What's his nose?
Yeah.
In the Big Lebowski.
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott. Always
Mustache.
I almost call him Sam Houston every time. The
I always
guy who
almost call him-
fought Santa Anna.
I always almost call him
18.
Sam O'Neill, the guy from Jurassic Park.
That's Sam Neill.
Sam Neill, sorry.
Sam O'Neill.
Sam O'Neill might also be a guy. He's probably a guy.
Doctor.
Sean O'Vanaman.
That's actually correct. But no, I really, really, really loved Bastion. I liked all the parts of it. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
really
fun.
excited for that game.
I like the
Video
narration kind of filled in bits
Mhm.
where it's like, why is this world kind of coming together as I walk on it? And it was like,
Right.
the world was inexplicably thing. He didn't seem to care. Just carried on. Some of that was really good.
Oh, the narrator comments on the fact that the world is building
It's just like
itself.
kids running along, world seems to be falling into place or whatever. Kid doesn't
Kid
care.
doesn't
Doesn't seem to notice.
Yeah,
That's
that
good.
was good. Deflate the weirdness of the world.
Yeah, like, well, okay, fine. I guess if he doesn't care,
Well, it's
I
funny
don't care.
it's funny the changing expectations players have with that stuff, you know, because when everyone played Mario a bajillion years ago, like the original Mario, it's like it would never ever occur to anybody to stop and be like, why is this all completely insane? Like, you know, why is
there a bullet with a beefy fist flying at you?
why am I going down like a toilet drainage and I'm ending up in
headbutt
a
a
sewer, like
brick.
a dungeon? Like, why is any of this? Like, why do I eat a flower and then I shoot fireballs? Like, none of this makes any sense. And so I really liked it in Bastion. It's just like that, and they reinforce the fact that it doesn't fucking matter why. Just like, well, you didn't give a shit about it.
Fuck it.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. A thing that was at the IGF that we could maybe talk about for a second is Amnesia. If anyone has anything to say, I mean that game's been,
we never really talked about it.
we've never talked about that game.
Is that horror game?
Yeah, it's really
That's
good.
that horror
That
game
horror
company.
game. No, but yeah, I totally missed things about
Did
this.
you-
But everyone
did you
says it's
play it
the
at all?
scariest thing.
It's
That was a
awesome.
huge.
Did we
line.
really never? I don't think we ever.
I don't think you've
talked
ever
No,
about
that game
about
didn't
Amnesia.
come out before we,
No,
No,
yeah,
before we were
it's
done.
really cool. It's by the guys who made the Penumbra games, and this is so they made, I don't know, 2 or 3, I guess if you count the expansion thing of Penumbra, and it's good that they started over with they sort of started over a new franchise with Amnesia because it allowed them to take all the stuff they learned from doing Penumbra, but just kind of do a nice clean break and be like, this is the culmination of all these really cool horror game mechanics and aesthetics that we've been polishing, and it's scary as shit. Like, it's a terrifying game. Like, you have
why is it?
because you have no weapon. Like, you really have no way to fight back against this roving enemy who just patrols the world. It's not like a scripted guy who pops in at specific moments. He's walking around. You can't do shit about it. And there are a number of really interesting mechanics that all coalesce to create something really, really terrifying with the way you interact with this enemy, which is that you have your sanity erodes over time, or essentially the longer you're not maintaining a sane state, the sooner you will just collapse on the ground in a sort of gibbering mess. And
So like that is the thing that was in Eternal Darkness and things,
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like
Right.
that. But this game, it's nice
This game's
because
more clever
The,
about it,
the
I
rest
think.
of the systems actually support that.
exactly,
so,
yeah.
like,
So when if you're in the light, you're fine. Your sanity is stable. But if you're in the darkness, it's not. And the longer you stay in the darkness, the more your sanity starts to erode. And you start to hear these little like clicking sounds, almost like it's a really
Like weird bugs and stuff?
indefinable.
Yeah.
it sounds like bugs.
It sounds
chattering.
like there's like a millipede in your ear. Yeah.
For a long time, I didn't know what it was, and I thought that there was something wrong, or like that it was creepy, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, is that my footsteps? Like, what? This is gross. Ew. And then I realized it was just
Scratching
you're like
sort
losing
of.
your grip on reality.
So it's good
basically.
that it confused you and made you
Exactly. Yeah. That's
Did you play
it
that
was-
game by yourself?
Yeah, I did. And
Wow.
So
Chris
And-
Remo, giant balls, just giant, just
Yeah, but
Yeah,
massive.
me and Sean and our
It's
housemate Adam
terrifying,
played
though.
that
Yeah.
game together, and we
We
were
all
just
sat in the office.
it was like when Scooby-Doo jumps into Shaggy's arms. basically.
I literally
I
did
could
that.
picture that,
I was
you
in
into
Adam's
Vanaman.
arms, in
Oh.
his giant arms, just being held, terrified.
yeah, and so
Sorry.
so when you're in the dark, your sanity erodes, and then also when you're looking, if this crazy roving enemy like comes into view, if you're looking at him, your sanity erodes faster as well. And so, but also, if you're looking at him, it makes it easier for him to like detect where
to
you
find
are.
you.
So what this means, like the combination of all these things means that.
Oh, also, it's harder for him to see you in the dark. If you're in shadow.
Exactly. If you're in light, it's easier for him to see you.
out.
Yes.
Right. So exactly right. So that's important too. So the combination of all of these things means the absolute best way, if he's in the same room as you and he doesn't know where you are yet, the best way to keep him from finding you is to find a dark corner and sit in it and look at the wall. But
then on top of that, the sound design in this game is fantastic. So you hear him sort of creep
exactly,
past
but
you
you
in
can't
stereo.
look at him because it'll tip him off to where you are.
And you know he's behind you. And
Exactly.
You're staring at the wall.
It creates this fucked up Blair Witch like
It's horrible.
madness, but it's doing it entirely within the game system.
We got to Sean and Adam and I got to a point in the game where there was an enemy that was invisible, but there was like an inch and a half of water on the floor, so you just saw the splashing footsteps. And a note came up on screen saying, "Don't go in the water." And then Sean like jumped up on a sort of physics-based crate and then fell into the water, and the footsteps went, we're just completely ruined. We respawned and tried it again, and it was just. Then that we had to do the thing where you crouch and look at the darkest thing and hide, but then you just hear the and the guy sort of wandered around behind us, and you just hear it of like, no, this is God.
You knew he was like right behind you. You just hear him there, and then I fell off the crate. And he killed me
The
instantly.
grenade rolled down the hill, so to speak.
Yeah. Oh,
Did you hear
God.
Ben's story about that game?
No.
So Ben Andak, another Thumbs guy, who's playing it. He lives in Taiwan, and everyone goes to sleep at lunch and has a nap and turns all the lights off. So he was like, "I will play this game." at lunch break, and he was playing that, and then woke everyone up by screaming. It's like, "Ah!"
You can find amazing videos on YouTube of people taping other people playing that game and just completely losing their shit. It's the best.
That's the best. I think Spaff needs to run away now, so we will take a break.
Take a break.
Break.
Video games.
So you're saying Mario is not in a video game? He's not in a video game enough for the
He
Idle
isn't a
Thumbs.
video game.
Mario is not a video game. This is true.
They should. You know what? Calling it. They're gonna put out a
reboot?
A reboot that is just Mario.
It's a new dark direction.
Link, Samus. They're gonna do three of them just in a row. Re-energize it. Man,
Well, if
No,
they just,
the Samus one will
I
just be
heard
called
the other
Metroid,
M was
and
so
she'll finally
bad.
be renamed Metroid.
I heard the other M was video games.
oh man, now it is out of
Oh man,
We're
I
back.
totally.
Oh, man.
I played Super Meat Boy a lot today. Let's
Yeah,
talk
you
about
did.
I mean, we've never talked about that. But
We've
I like
talked
that
about it a lot.
Did we? We didn't talk about it much.
Really?
That game didn't
Think
come
about
out
it
when we were
came
making the podcast.
Oh,
We've talked about it amongst
Super Meat
ourselves.
Boy. I played that game a ton.
Oh man, you know what? What's funny is when you were playing it in Office that first time, I came by and I was like, "Ugh,
No,
that's not for
you
me."
came by when I was playing it at home.
That's what I mean. In the office. Our
Oh
home
yeah,
office.
I thought you meant at work.
No.
Yeah,
You
you were
came by and I
like,
was
that's
like,
not for me. And I was like, what? I think you'll like this game. And then we got in a fight, and you went to your room, and it ruined my night. And now you're playing. You're like, this is good.
what happened is the
Hilarious.
composer for the music. Oh man, I'm an asshole. I would love to be able to say his name right now, and people could go.
Internet.
Glenn, look on the Google. Who composed the music for
Wait,
Super Meat
Jake,
Boy?
get back here.
No, he's got it right there.
All right, keep talking.
But no, we were. I was talking. It was right after I played Bastion. He came over and was talking about Telltale, and then he goes, "Oh, I composed the music for Super Meat Boy," and I had to lie to him.
Oh, you mean
Like,
Danny?
we're-
Yeah, Danny.
Danny. I'm like, "Oh, we're big fans." I mean, you're a big fan, but I had to say we.
Danny Baranowski.
He's great, really nice guy. But he produced from his backpack a couple really nice special edition soundtracks that kind of riff on the Pink Floyd thing on the front. But and he gave me one. I listened to it and I thought it was great. So then I downloaded the demo and realized that I was wrong, so wrong. And I've been playing that game on and off all day.
Also, the to connect with the GDC a bit, I missed this talk unfortunately, but the Meat Boy, the Team Meat guys gave a talk during the Indie Summit this year, and apparently Edmund McMillan, who was one of the two guys who made the game along with Tommy Reffinez, was, by the time this game was done, was in like a deep state of crazy like diabetic clinical depression, where he was just sleeping like 2 hours at a time and then working for 10 hours, and was basically, he's like almost killed himself making this game, crazily, and then it came out, and obviously it was a huge success, but he was basically like, if we knew this game was going to be as successful as it ended up being, and we knew like what the whole process was going to be, if I had to go back, I would not have done that because it just fucking destroyed him so utterly, which is crazy to me because these guys did such a good job, I thought, during the development process and leading up to it of being really like engaging with all the fans.
The image they put out was just like, indie, rad, hilarious stuff. Everyone's having fun making this Meat Boy.
Took our photo at Sears in our sweater vests.
Yeah, that's the best image. Yeah. Oh god. So yeah, that was a weird thing. They made a game that is good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like it's just it's that time of year. I'm sure it happens to everybody here, but like you playing Super Meat Boy and playing, Greg and those guys playing Bastion, and you're like, gosh, it just kind of like it plants that seed,
Dream game is in my brain, and then you're like, oh no, I'm gonna go back to my job and make a real game.
Yeah,
it's gonna be sweet, but yeah. Oh.
Yeah, GDC is the lord.
GDC just lights the fire in your brain and just
really does.
Magic and majesty of games.
Yeah, it absolutely does.
It is amazing what those guys sacrifice though to make all of their stuff. That's terrifying.
I feel like the Bastion guys were like, "Oh, do you have an office? We have a room in the house that we all live in."
Yeah,
like sweet.
Yeah, and like it's you build a meager savings account and then just pull the Scrooge McDuck lever on it, and all the money goes away.
Yeah, you pull the Scrooge McDuck lever, and then 5 seconds later, all of the coins
just
depleted.
It's just like,
or
is that
well,
yeah. But it's gosh, that's so terrifying to me to be like, well, this is my and then Greg actually said it really well. Like
this is Greg Kasavin.
Kasavin, sorry,
who Sean calls Greg all the time.
He's a friend. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, but I mean,
yeah. I'm being to a conversation with
Bob.
Oh man, you saw Bob this week?
Weinstein. Yes.
So anyway,
but
Greg Kasavin and I were chatting, editor of GameSpot,
and he said, who knows how this game will do, but no matter how it does, I will always have it. Like I'm proud of it.
That's totally true. Yeah.
I did it, and if this game sells nothing, and we all have to go find jobs after this, then that stinks. But nothing.
They got Bastion out of the deal.
Yeah, nobody will take this out. Nothing. This won't cease to exist.
Well, so there was a really good point that was made by Andy Schatz, who is making Monaco. That game looks. I don't know if you guys have played it, but it's rad.
I saw it at IGF last year, but
yeah, it was cool. It's a top-down 4-player cooperative heist game, and it's really nice. And he made it after his company Pocket Watch Games. He made these really interesting like wildlife simulations because he's really into environmental issues and protecting species and things like that. And he was making these games. And he was making his third one, which was about dinosaurs. And like he's like, oh man, this is gonna be crazy. A game about dinosaurs. Like people haven't done this right yet. Like this is gonna be awesome. But it just wasn't working. Like it just was not working at all. And he just couldn't make it fun. For some reason he just couldn't find like the spark there. And he was just going into this deep state of depression. Like a lot of these it happens with a lot of these guys who just don't know entirely what's next because they're not in the security of a large firm. And he's like, oh, I'm just going to make some other thing. So he went and he just started making this game Monaco that he'd been had in his brain for like 9 years. And a matter of days later, he had a playable prototype going. And then he just cranked on it. And he entered it in the IGF after 5 weeks of development and then won the entire IGF that year. By the time he won the IGF, the game had only had 12 weeks of development on it. And he entered it after 5 weeks. It's now been more than a year later, and he's still working on it. But he's going to finish it. Obviously, like he's done so much that it's clearly going to get there. But he made a really good point, which is that regardless of how this game does, this is similar to what Greg was saying, but
Greg Kasavin of GameSpot.
Greg Kasavin of GameSpot. Sorry, for the readers.
Exactly. Regardless of how this game does, if it does well and he makes a bunch of money, great. He gets a bunch of money and he gets sort of the recognition for having made this game. If it does poorly and he doesn't make a bunch of money, he still always has that recognition, which makes it more likely that he'll be sort of given another chance to do something cool. Mm-hmm. And that I thought was a really important point to make, because if you're going out and just doing something just cynically, just to make a bunch of money and that's it, if it fails, you don't really have anything. You might if it does succeed, fine, you might make a bunch of money. If it doesn't, you're kind of left with nothing. But if you make something that really clearly at least speaks to you, it's probably going to speak to some number of other people. And even if it doesn't do well, you will be left with the recognition that, oh man, this guy went out and like tried to do something really cool. And I think that is one of the reasons guys like Tim Schafer, who has, he hasn't made like a ton of really huge, successful, like light the industry on fire games, but he's really well regarded for obvious reasons. I mean, his games aren't huge failures or anything. But the fact that he's out there making games that are unique and cool and respected for various reasons, it means, you know, he and Double Fine, they get to keep trying again. Whereas some company that's just out there just like pumping out whatever crap that just doesn't end up making it, eventually it's just going to kind of go away. And I thought that was a really valuable point and very, very well said. So Andy Schatz, that guy's cool. In Monaco. Hopefully it is successful.
You mean Andy?
I mean Andy, sorry.
A. It's like didn't get the D out. Yeah, it's just funny because to think about how, well, I'm gonna make my game. I have this one sort of chance, you know, like, well, I have this much in the savings, and you know, my programmers get this much in the savings. We're gonna run at it, you know, and you kind of have to pick your pony, because you have all these ideas, you know, and like picking the one that you know you're gonna be able to get at least to the finish line is a terrifying proposition for me. And, like I wrote a blog post about it like 2 years ago, and I was trying to write something, and I was trying to write something about a personal thing. Like I was working on a personal project, and I wrote about like sort of how crippling it is to make that initial choice of like, okay, I'm going to spend the next 4 months. And that's not even that, you know, that's a chunk of a game development time. I'm going to spend the next 4 months making this thing, and I'm not going to get those 4 months back. So I have to pick the thing that I believe in the most. And then you quickly realize like there's no metric for picking what you believe in the most. You just have to kind of be like,
you just got to go for it.
Go into a room and point at something, and hopefully that's it. Yeah, I just can't, like, it's a very cool thing that all those guys do.
It really is.
You know,
take some balls.
Big ones, not as big as Chris's though, who played Amnesia by himself.
Yeah.
Chris is actually 42% ball.
It's kind of a little uncomfortable, but
but I can play Amnesia by myself, which is cool.
Yeah, so that works out.
Oh, that was just you role playing as Chris.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to talk about? GDC complete.
Achievement unlocked.
I was going to bring up the Brian Moriarty talk about Ebert. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that.
You and Sean can punch each other? No, I don't know.
Did you see that talk?
No. I just want to get Sean involved as an adversarial character in this narrative.
I disagree.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Regale us.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty near the end of the show, wasn't it?
Because I think I actually agree with Brian Moriarty on this one.
The Loom is a good game?
Oh, man, Loom is the best game. Let's
I
talk
love
about
Loom, yeah.
So, I pitched Loom as a game design for a Jonas Brothers game, like my last month at Disney.
Oh, man.
I wanted to do,
Speaking of what you did at Disney.
What was I doing? Yeah, we can talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, do it.
What?
So when I was, I don't know.
Whoa, ultimate seg.
Well, I'll talk about how Loom, so I was a creative development producer at Disney, which is basically like, hey, we have this license, we have this property, we have the Jonas Brothers, we really need a DS game for this. What should we make? And that was my job, which is kind of a cool job when you think about it, but you're also making a Jonas Brothers game. So what I wanted to do was ape Loom, that the Jonas Brothers could learn to they could do all the things they went to high school to do. You know, like they had to meet girls,
chemistry.
and, they had to meet girls and do their homework and do their chores, but they did that through learning spells on their guitar. So if you had to cut the lawn, mow the lawn, cut the grass, you learned cut, and then you could use cut everywhere in the game with very like Loom. Yeah, you could get slice up, you could shank a guy, but no, you could go to the prom and cut a rug, or you could
what?
And then if you did it in reverse,
Classic.
you could grow something. So you could grow your hair. You
Right.
could grow. I wanted to have grow some balls when you had to ask a girl out. But that was the whole. It was
Use cut on your balls.
Cut your balls
select it
off.
the wrong direction.
This game surely was not approved because the Jonas Brothers' balls were a hot spot. They were a selectable region.
I see here. Yes, we have some notes about being able to click on the oldest Jonas Brothers balls. Yeah,
It appears.
yeah. I know they're not the size
of
of Chris Remos, but what do you want? You want them bigger? What do you want? It was just
balls are a theme. Anyway,
yeah, they were sprites though, so we could just swap them out. It wasn't too tough.
you swap them out with robots for the German localization.
So yeah, that was my job at Disney. What do you want to talk about, Chris?
Well, I mean, I don't know. Got any interesting stories about what you got up to at Disney?
I got really drunk at the company Christmas party my last year there. Just hammered, just trashed. No, I mean, it's a hard seg. So what Chris wants me to talk about is, so I got my start in the game industry. I was a student at USC.
Man, sorry, this is sounding like your Caddyshack Bill Murray.
Why
Get
would
up
you
with the
do
lamb.
that? Why would you do this? He was going to tell the fucking story.
So what is Bill Murray saying Caddyshack?
So, give me the
Jesus
first team. Who do they
Christ.
give me? The Dalai Lama himself. Bald. Long robes.
Skip to the end.
The Grease. Gunga Galunga?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Gunga Galunga, Chris.
Okay, thanks, John.
Gunga Galunga.
Thank you.
What was I talking about?
You're talking about being at Disney.
Disneyland?
You were talking about Mickey Mouse.
This is the worst podcast.
So no, I got started at Disney when I was a student at USC and needed a summer job, and I was a film. I don't think I was a film. It doesn't matter. I was studying something. I think it was probably undeclared. And I applied for an internship at Disney Interactive Studios, making video games. It was a creative development internship, and I had no idea what it was. And I was unemployed at the time, and my parents had cut me off. So the same day I applied to work at Disney, I also applied to work at the Outback Steakhouse. It was a pretty awesome day in my life. So my pickup truck's sad. On the next day, I went to see Harry Potter 3 by myself on my birthday. So it was really good. I had no friends in LA at the time, and it was the summer. Anyway, so I get this job, and one of the first things they ask us to do is I worked for this great guy. His name's Chris Takami. He was a creative development director there, and it was before. I kind of mentioned it the other day, about the indie game scene, how working at a publisher, mid-sized developers would bring in their pitch for a game, and a lot of it was art, and there was sometimes a vertical slice that they put together, but it was really just kind of art and a pitch, and that was really what my job entailed. It was seeing these things and then doing them internally as well. And Disney had been trying to crack a couple larger concepts, so they created this intern program of I think there was 6 of us, where they said, hey, work with this guy who was a designer and sort of a creative director, and put together a pitch for a game that you would play, because we have no idea how to tackle this property. And the property at the time is Mickey, and that was.
Was that Mickey Mouse?
Mickey Mouse. Sorry, I don't mean to.
Yeah,
For the readers
thanks.
at home, yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to work making a video game that would ultimately become Epic Mickey, which was 8 years ago. It was me and a few guys sat in a room all summer, and we were getting paid, which was cool, but there was no sort of avenue for us to pitch anything, and we were working on this game about. We'd all kind of been through orientation and learned about this character. We kind of learned the history of the company, and Walt had created this character Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and then lost the rights to him. Walt Disney. Sorry.
Walt Kasavin.
Walt Kasavin. Yeah. He created this character Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, and we always thought the character was really cool, but he had lost the rights to it to Universal. So he changed the ears on him and turned him into Mickey Mouse. And that's how Mickey was invented. So we're oh, well, that's the game. The game is this pissed off rabbit, or the idea of
This
a character,
marginalized.
a character going away for 80 years and just watching, essentially a carbon copy of himself become the most prolific 2D character of all time. I'm trying to think what year it was. It was right around when we were invading Iraq.
So 2002?
Yeah, 2003, yeah. And I remember seeing a kid in Baghdad in a Mickey Mouse t-shirt. And that was and I was working on Mickey at the time.
Right,
I was Jesus. You just kind of there's no corner of the planet.
Right.
It doesn't. So it's that all kind of fed into the fact about this little pissed off rabbit. And sort of how powerful of a character that could be.
Yeah.
There's no other character that's just Bowser hasn't literally been sitting on the shelf for 80 years. There has been no character that's just been in a time capsule. And we put together some art, and thought it was really cool, and we would like close the door and have this little clubhouse atmosphere. And then like the VP of Human Resources came in, and I was like, "What are you guys working on in here? You guys are getting paid, right?" And we're like, "Yeah." And I stood up, I was like, and showed him the thing. And like 2 days later, we were pitching it to the president of Disney Interactive Studios. At the time, it was Buena Vista Games at the time. And I never left working at Disney. And we pitched it all summer, and then they brought in like Bob Iger, who is the CEO of the Walt Disney Company, and like let us pitch it. And I had to like skip a history final at USC to do it. and we built a prototype, and we worked on the game for like 2 years, and then it had nowhere to go. We had a developer lined up, and it fell through, and then the game was kind of like rolling around. The whole management structure at Disney changed, and they were like, "We're getting this game made." And then enter stage left Warren Spector, and then you have Epic Mickey shortly thereafter. But
I love that you secretly fucking invented Epic Mickey.
The weird thing is that the summer after, we just pitched it to Bob Iger, and it was I had the best boss on the planet. This guy was just like I was 20. To put like a 20-year-old kid in front of the CEO of the Walt Disney Company and be like, "Hey, pitch this thing." Like, who does that? Like, who doesn't just be like, go to your room, kid, like stuff you back in there, take a cigar out, and go like get a promotion, you know? Like, who the fuck does that? So what a mensch.
It would have been nice if he had taken the cigar out no matter what, though. And
Yeah,
going,
it's like, why you can't smoke in here, man? Like, this is California. So I remember we pitched the game. And I sat down. There was a room with like 7 people, and it was like Bob Iger and like his like guy, and then
this other guy.
Well, he's like a guy you don't know. He doesn't just like enter. He says his name. He's like Steve.
Right. Oh,
never says his name. This guy. And the head of Disney Interactive.
Steve Kasavin, we'll call him.
Yeah, it's for instance. Steve Gaynor actually was his guy. A bespectacled, 22-year-old Steve Gaynor. Bespectacled. You know, he was spotted. Anyway.
The rare spotted gainer.
So I remember we pitched the game, and Bob Iger was like, "So this Oswald, like, do we own him? He's ours, right? We own him, right?" And he was like, "Actually, no. I don't think the company owns him. We think Universal owns him because we had the Disney, like the interactive lawyers, like looking into it." He's like, "Huh? All right. Well, I really like this. This is great. This is really awesome. This is really fantastic. Really great." And then just like left, and that was the end of it. I was like, okay. So like 3 weeks later, I was at home reading ESPN.com, and I was like scrolling through, and I actually have a screen cap of it.
Yeah,
on my
I remember that. I remember that article because I wrote about it for Kama Sutra.
And it was like, the Disney Company trades Al Michaels for a rabbit, and I instantly knew what it was, and I was like, what? So Al Michaels went to NBC Universal to do like Football Night in America, and they got the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
Yeah.
And I called my boss, and he was in Vegas at the time, I remember, because it was a Friday night. I was at home reading about animated characters on the internet. Yeah. I was like, oh my god. So then there was this whole movement around Oswald, and they brought Oswald back to the company and put out all this merchandise. And like Bob Iger came to the studio like about like 6 months later and said, "Okay, guys, I got you Oswald. Like, make the game. Like, why aren't you guys making the game? Like, make the game."
Where's the game?
Exactly. Like, can I play the game? No. And at that time, they'd hired me full time, and I was working on other stuff. Yeah, that was the crazy thing. And then like you were down at like Disneyland, like a month ago? Not even.
Yeah,
it was like Oswald.
They're rebuilding a huge chunk of California Adventure, which is one of the Disneyland theme parks, as this 1930s Hollywood thing, and on all of the walls is a picture of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, like with his hammer and nails, like, we're rebuilding Disneyland, like what? So that's weird.
Yeah.
It's just weird when I see like a guy in an Oswald T-shirt and you're like, if I like got in a car wreck
that was me
like 8 years ago, I wouldn't be on that guy. It's kind of weird.
Or would it?
Didn't you also sketch the logo or something?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So the logo, the dripping ink.
This is why you're called Famous Vanaman, by the way. Yeah. Let's just settle it now.
It was on.
That's what you love.
It was on a Post-it that summer. It was like I was like dicking around, and I had no art skills, but I worked with two amazing artists. Three, a guy named Justin Hunt, who I think is at DreamWorks, a guy named Sean Jimenez, and a guy named Jasser Membrano, and those guys are amazing. So check out their art. I don't know if they're selling any of it, but buy it if they are. Anyway, like they were all amazing artists, and I had no skills, but I was like doing the GDD, and it's a game design document.
Kasavin.
Excuse me, Kasavin.
GDD Kasavin, designer
GDD Kasavin.
Bastion.
And and I like had a Post-it, and I like did this really, and it was like even with my left hand or something. I did this really horribly off model Mickey like I remember just like making a.
You actually pooped.
I actually shit onto a Post-it and then squished it like a Rorschach test, and that's what it came out. But no, I put that on there, and I ended up scanning it in, and that was what I put on every GDD. And then we went to PAX. Was it?
It was
and
somewhere
it was
where there's
just
just
fucking everywhere,
immaculately
Just
rendered
everywhere. Like
ink.
it clearly been rebuilt in Illustrator, but to this tiniest little thing. And I have the Post-it like in a flat file, I think, in my room.
It blows my mind that you fucking were responsible for all this shit.
And it was like
hilarious to me.
I was in college. Like it was.
But you didn't actually end up working on the like game itself, did you?
No, that was all done in Austin.
You were at Telltale by then, probably. Or
yeah, they
reasonably-
started it, and they were all in pre-production, and then I came to Telltale. Like, I knew I needed to make games like at a developer.
So you guys should stay tuned to the next exciting episode of Idle Thumbs when we tell you how Phaedrus was almost in the Jurassic Park game.
Video games.
So before we wrap this up, I want to let everyone know who's going to PAX East this weekend that there will be an Idle Thumbs meetup. Marvin from the forums has reserved some spots for us at the City Bar in the Westin, which is right next to the convention center. So Friday at around 7:30 or so, folks are going to show up and we can hang out and get drinks or whatever. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you there. Take a look on the Idle Thumbs forums for the latest news and also amazing conversation about video games and
with all sorts of other
with all sorts of people on the internet. One other thing that I'm going to mention, because I've never mentioned it because it didn't exist last time, is there is an official Idle Thumbs Minecraft server.
Oh, yeah.
So for those of you who play Minecraft and want to wander around a Minecraft server that is well-maintained with a pretty active community of like-minded thumbs, you should visit minecraft.idlethumbs.net, or if you hate typing, idlemc.com. It's maintained by our web administrator, Doug, who is awesome, and a bunch of dudes in the forums. So play Minecraft, who are also awesome. Play Minecraft and go to the Penny Arcade Expo, even though they're sold out of passes.
No, there's 250 left for Sunday.
That's true.
Depending on when this comes out.
250 of you could go to the Poker Night panel hosted by me and Sean Vanaman Sunday afternoon.
Jake is fucking...
That's right, 3:30 p.m.
3:30 p.m. in some hall or another.
That'll be a good panel.
Also, I'm on some kind of panel about community management.
Oh, yeah. Also, Chris will be spending all of PAX standing by a Big Daddy statue.
It's not a Big Daddy.
Oh, right. Sorry, it's a new statue.
Yeah.
All new statue.
Wooden robot daddy.
A clockwork man with a human
There's
heart.
also, I guess we're just lining them
It's
up.
actually not that
There's
bad either, but yeah,
Oh.
that's fine.
A statue of something. He'll be standing next to a statue of himself, which we have commissioned.
Correct.
there's a kill screen panel at 4:30 on Friday, which is going to be me and a guy from Twisted Pixel and another guy talking about writing in games. So it should be great.
Also, I'm on a community management panel, but I forget when it is. I think it might also be Sunday.
No, you already said that. With the Big Daddy.
I didn't say when it was, though.
You're gonna be it's gonna be you and a Big
Oh, yeah,
Daddy.
me and a Big Daddy on a panel. It's going to be cool.
About
You-
community management.
Yeah.
Ken Levine in a Big Daddy suit.
Yeah.
Steve Gaynor dressed up as little sister. Confirmed?
Yeah, confirmed.
Confirmed. You heard it here first.
Anyway,
Alright, guys.
GDC was good.
Yeah, it was great. It was an awesome GDC. Well done to Megan Scavio, who runs GDC. She is the best. Thanks for listening.
Games.
Excuse me.